සෙන්කඩගල නුවර දළදා මාලිගා පරිශ්‍රයේ සිට අප ඔබට උතුම් දළදා සම්දුන්ගේ ආශිර්වාද ප්‍රාර්ථනා ගෙන එනවා. උතුම් දළදා හාමුදුරන් විශේෂයි වාර්ෂිකව පවත්වන ප්‍රධාන පූජෝපහාරයන් ප්‍රධාන මංගල්‍යයන් 4 අතරින් අගෝස්තු මාසයේ යෙදෙන මේ පෙරහැර මංගල්‍ය සුවිශේෂී වෙනවා. එදා අනුරාධපුර රාජධානිය සිට සෙන්කඩගල නුවර දක්වා දළදා සම්දුන් වැඩ වාසය කළ ස්ථානයන්හි දළදා සම්දුන් විශේෂයි මේ පූජෝපහාරයන් පෙරහැර මංගල්‍ය පවත්වා ජනතාව උපහාර දක්වා තිබෙනවා. අද වන විට ඓතිහාසික සෙන්කඩගල නුවර මේ පෙරහැර මංගල්‍යයේ සිරිවිස්තුරු දැක බලා ගැනීමට සෙන්කඩගල නුවරට බොහෝ ජනතාවක් පැමිණ සිටිනවා. අප මේ පෙරහැර විසිතුර විශේෂයෙන් අද දෙවන රන්දෝලි පෙරහැර මේ දෙවන රන්දෝලි පෙරහැරේ සිරිවිස්තුර ඔබට අපි සජීව ගෙනෙන්න සියලු කටයුතු සූදානම් කර තිබෙනවා. POTV නාලිකාංක 20 ඩයලොග් නාලිකාංක 140 සහ ශ්‍රී දළදා මාලිගාවේ සමාජ ජාල මාධ්‍යයන් ඔස්සේ අපි ඔබට මේ පෙරහැරේ සිරිවිසිතුර ගෙනෙනවා. ඒත් එක්කම ෆ්‍රී සෙට් නාලිකාංක 2 ඔස්සේත් ඔබට මේ පෙරහැරේ විසිතුර නරඹන්නට අවස්ථාව තිබෙනවා. ඓතිහාසික කඳුරට ඇසල පෙරහැර මහා මංගල්‍යයේ දෙවන රන්දෝලි පෙරහැර මේ මොහොත වන විට වීදි සංචාර කිරීමේ කටයුතු ආරම්භ කර තිබෙනවා. අපි ඔබට ඒ රූපරාමු සමීප කරනවා. අරුණි
இரண்டாவது நாள் ரந்தோலி வலம் வருவதற்காக தயாராக உள்ளது. சிங்கராஜா யானையின் மீது புனித பேலை கொண்டு வரும் அக்காட்சிகளை நேரடி ஒளிபரப்பாக டயலாக் தொலைக்காட்சி 140 ஃப்ரீ செட் 2 மற்றும் POTV 20 ஃபேஸ்புக் யூடியூப் ஸ்ரீ தலனா மாளிகா இவையினூடாக காணலாம். சமோதா
ringing heavy beats across the skies and showering blessings upon all human beings, the second Randoli Perahera is ready to start its streets perambulations. Thousands of people are lining the streets, so we invite you all to join them. For those of you who are joining us through the cyberspace, tune in to Dialogue TV channel number 140, POTV channel number 20, Free Set channel number 2, and the official social media platforms of Sri Dalada Maligawa Media Bureau.
This glamorous city is ready to celebrate this elaborate religious, cultural and national parade. And now you're seeing the Perahera officials obtaining the permission and blessings of the Devada Nilame, who is the key custodian or the lay custodian of the sacred tooth relic, before commencing the street parading. This is the handing over of keys by the Devada Nilame to the officiating bhikkhus. Making his way from the upper to the lower level of the temple of the tooth relic, the Devada Nilame ceremoniously and reverentially takes the relic casket under the protection of the chief incumbent. And this is the moment we are about to witness the moment. The casket is placed on the great tusker who will be carrying this casket in today's second Randoli Procession.
We are seeing pictures when the officers are placing the sacred tooth relic casket within the Randoli gate.
It is a tradition of the Esala Procession that the Perahera casket, which contains 32 relics of Lord Buddha, is placed within the Randoli, mounted on an adorned tusker who will add color and glamour to the Perahera. And today, this great tusk is placed upon the tusker Singharaja of Sri Dalada Maligawa elephant stables.
This is the devout moment when the great tusker steps majestically down from the Mahawahakada to the Sandagala in preparation to walk the streets of the city, commencing the second Randoli Procession. Today, the second Randoli Procession will take the Dalada Vidya, DS Senanayaka Vidya, Colombo Vidya, Yatinuara Vidya, and then will be coming back to the Sri Dalada Maligawa.
You can see that this sacred city is all ready to witness as well as to celebrate this night-long procession. Chamoda, usually this annual procession is believed to be held in the month of Esala to trigger the monsoon.
Indeed, it is believed that this celebration is in fact a request of timely rains to give bountiful harvests to Sri Lankan citizens.
So, walking up front with the sound of whips piercing through the skies are the whip crackers. What do these whip crackers indicate?
Since we were talking about the monsoon, I think this is also synonymous to the sound of lightning, and also it signals the people lining the streets that the Perahera is approaching.
Yes, you're right. And also the duty of the whip master is to clear the way for the holy Perahera casket.
Sachini, in the days of kings, it was believed that this whip was used as a prop of punishment, and it conjures fear in the minds of people. What is the effect that it has in this procession today?
Yes, it's good that you asked that question, because there could be people wondering about the fact why an equipment or something like a whip is being occupied or used in a great or religious procession like this. So today in this procession or in the Esala procession, the whip doesn't symbolize something like punishment, or it doesn't mean anything like that at all. So it has a totally different meaning in this procession.
Indeed, we can say that after 2 years of long silence, thousands of people are lining the streets, and also they are throwing coins on the streets. with utmost celebration of this Buddha's culture. Regardless of how rich or poor they are, they offer their coins in great devotion. This shows the basis of giving and sharing among the people of our land.
And it is really beautiful, and it feels really good to see such a great number of people lining up in the streets to witness the Esala procession almost after 2 years. So these whip crackers might also feel really good to see the people lining up in the streets, because it was a tradition, like you said, back in the day, to throw coins into the paths of the whip masters or whip crackers as an offering to ward off evil from these, young children and people who are watching Perahera and smooth their life path. So after 2 years, because of different circumstances, the country wasn't able to accommodate public to watch Perahera. So it is nearly after 2 years we are seeing the public, and the tradition is being continued in today's Perahera and in this year's Perahera, to be specific.
Indeed, it's been a while since we hear this cheer and the joy from the people lining the streets of the city.
And this group of whip crackers is led by Upali Jayaratna. Talking about this tradition of whip wielding or whip cracking, the whip master's duty is handed down from generation to generation of their clans. So, according to our traditions, Peraheras that do not have that pedigree are not even worth being called such.
Second up, in the second Randoli Perahera, we are seeing pictures of the fire dances. This is an offering of fire to the god to water the earth with rain.
Earlier we said that the sound of the whip crackers is equivalent to the sound of lightning strikes. So what do these fireball dances signify?
The sight of lightning is a precursor to the descent of rain gods, and that is a phenomenon of nature. And these blinding flashes are a cooling heat in the Dalada procession, which signifies the thunder.
Exactly. The lightning which comes with the rains, which is a phenomenon of nature, is magnificently depicted by these fireball dances.
The true import of these dances are seen when a large group of them perform simultaneously, merging their various fiery elements into an amazing display of heat and light.
And in our own language, this turning of the fireballs is called Pandampaliya.
Indeed, these dancers are seen creating their paintings of fire across the night sky of the Kandy city today. And for the children who are up on the shoulders of the experienced dancers, it's just a fire play, and for the experienced elders, it's a devout and committed dance.
The sun, moon, earth, universe, solar month, night and day are all cyclic. And the fire dances highlight these universal cycles and how they burn and cool us in our life cycles.
These very young performers tells us that these traditions will last for many generations to come. Isn't it, Sachini?
Exactly. And talking about this group of fireball dancers, today these dancers who often take part in the Dalada procession annually is led by A.D. Tilakaratna.
The fire dancers are completely focused and immersed in their art, keeping their minds and bodies one-pointed as they create their cyclic patterns of fire. This is because the slightest inattention could result in disaster.
At the same time, Shamoda, some believe that the fiery life cycle or the fury cycle of samsara, flooded with desire, ignorance and anger, is also highlighted by these chakras painted by these fireball dancers.
Indeed, Sachini, it's very interesting to see how various analogies coming in. There is another analogy that these dancers are taming fire and give it as a Dalada offering, mindful of its part in cooking, protecting crops and chenas, and dispelling darkness, creating curiosity, satisfaction and amazement to the people who are weaving the procession. We can see the dancers performing in their full vigor and energy, releasing the circles into the air and making various performances.
The sight of the Buddhist flag creates a sense of unreflecting joy on the part of the people weaving the Kandy Esala Procession, reminding them that this is a celebration, devotion and offering to the Buddha. Now we see the Buddhist flag bearers led by the national flag.
Indeed, these Buddhist flag bearers reminds us that this ceremonious procession is one of the adulations for the living Buddha as well as a paramita for the future Buddha.
What's the significance of the Buddhist flag? Talking about the Buddhist flag, it is a symbol of faith and peace. 6 colors of the flag represent the colors of the aura that emanated from the body of Lord Buddha when he attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. The horizontal strips represent the races of the world living in harmony, while the vertical strips represent eternal world peace.
The flag bearers create a sense of unlimited compassion on the Buddha through the sacred Dalada tooth relic. The sight calms undisciplined, wayward minds and focuses them on a procession of love, compassion radiating across the universe.
As the Buddhist flag is one of the very first sites in the Esala procession, I think it's important for us to look back at the history of the Buddhist flag as well.
Indeed, Sachini.
The Buddhist flag was jointly designed by Mr. J.R. De Silva and Colonel Henry S. Alcott to mark the revival of Buddhism in Ceylon. It was accepted as the international Buddhist flag in 1952 at the World Buddhist Congress.
And this Buddhist flag with that interesting history is ceremoniously presented in this procession to remind the people simply of the great scope and depth of the Buddha's Dhamma.
And now we see the provincial flag bearers or the cloth flag bearers following the Buddhist flag bearers.
In fact, these Buddhist flag bearers and cloth flag bearers both are represented by the Pallekele open air prison.
Reminding us of the days of the kings, the people of the Korale divisions and state officials of Kanda Udarata, with Disha Kodi flying high, join the procession.
Indeed, and these flag bearers display the standards of all the areas that came under the control of the Bhupati or the Senkadagala king in the days of yore.
Yes, Chamoda, as you said, through this, the people were able to identify if the governance of the Kandian kings was well and in accordance with Rajadharma. In those times, the display of these flags was also a political symbol. Therefore, those officials of the areas who recognized the sovereignty of the Kandian king brought their flags and standards to display in the procession of the sacred tooth relic. Isn't that a beautiful tradition?
Indeed it is. if we are to talk about the lineup of these flags, the first is the Sun Moon Standard of Satara Koralaya. Next comes the Lion Flag of Sat Koralaya. Then in line, the White Flag of Matale, the Sabaragamuwa Silk Flag, the flag with the Berunda Pakshiya of the Tun Koralaya, the Peacock Standard of Uva Valapane, and the Lotus Standard of the Udapalata.
Up next, we see the brass standard bearers. These brass Disa flags also represent the glory of the Senkadagala kingdom. Both gold and brass workers belong to the same clan or Gurukulaya, which is the Navandanna clan.
They offer their skills and services with great devotion to the people of the land and the glory of the Hela traditions by participating in this procession.
As mentioned earlier, the Navandanna clan, like the people who belong to that clan, were the ones who made the gold ornaments for the pageant as well as the gold and silver work for the king. So with the durability of the brass flag, the kings of old offered their hope of similar durability and sustainability to the nation as well.
Indeed, the pattern sculptured on these brass standards tells us the glory of the Sri Lankan art and culture.
Look at the detailed engravings on these flags.
Indeed, certainly. This tells us how colorful and how fine this smelting of precious metals has been in the days of the ancient kings.
As we are witnessing the second Randoli Procession of the ancient hill capital, now we see the sword carriers joining the procession, following the brass flag bearers.
The Dalada Perahera is a procession aimed at reducing and eradicating sorrow and sadness. Yet when someone sees these swords, they might be wondering what this is. Isn't it, Sachini? Would you mind elaborating the analogy behind this?
Exactly. But there is only pride in the minds of those who know the Dalada traditions when they see these sword bearers. Because the sacred tooth relic has been a symbol of kinship in the country from the day it is brought here. Therefore, there were many wars that were fought for its possession. The history of these skirmishers spans thousands of years ago. From the Anuradhapura period all the way to Senkatigala, the relic was protected by the might of sword-wielding warriors.
Indeed, our young generations should be taught that history lesson and be informed of the fact that without the protective interventions of these men, the sacred tooth relic could have very well long lost for the people of our land.
And now we see the first elephant of the procession bearing the Peramune Rala.
It is a norm of the procession that the Peramune Rala, or the leader of the procession, is the first person on elephant back, and neither officials nor elephants are permitted to arrive before the Peramune Rala.
And Shamu, that today the Indiraja Tusker is leading the procession, and Indiraja is believed to be the leader of Shri Maligawa elephant stables as well. So today we see a rare moment of a leader leading the procession with the Peramune Rala and clad in white robes. The Peramune Rala ceremoniously carries the secretarial scroll.
The scroll is encased in a round container, and it is as a part of traditions of the procession. You are joining us with the live telecast of the second Randoli Perahera, live from the Dalada Maligawa premises.
The first HVC beaters. Until the HVC drum beaters, permanently seconded to the service of the Dalada Maligawa, arrive in procession, no Panchature Vadana or making of sound using either drums or musical instruments is permitted.
The Perahera is an yearly occurrence to pay homage to the sacred tooth relic. It is therefore a yearly tradition that the four leaders of Havis troop arrive first in the Dalada procession.
For this, the four great drum clans of the Dalada Maligawa, namely Uduvela, Malagamana, Iholavela and Molagoda, contribute with great devotion and pageantry to the celebration.
Indeed, the four leaders depict the recognition given to them by the king through the ways in which they decorate their Havisi drums. And we can see how they have decorated their Havisi drums in different forms through the pictures.
To be noted, and we can proudly say that this tune has echoed through the hills of the Cambrian kingdom for centuries.
Indeed, Sachini. In fact, this Havisi beat is not restricted to the procession alone. This heavy beads are used in the Devada in the daily, weekly, monthly and yearly offerings. Official heavy troop of the Sri Maligawa, and it is prohibited to use other traditional music instruments, namely the horana, talampoda, cymbals, Dewala, conch, kombua and anklets to ensure that the order of playing these instruments is not compromised.
Chamoda, when you look back at history, the ancestors of these performers were also part of this procession. Therefore, generation after generation, these players have trained so hard and evolved into these talented players whom we see today.
Indian Sachin, they keep practicing for years and years to take part in this procession with utmost respect.
We hear the beats of the drums and the tunes of the Horanava soaring up to the skies, up above the Senkadakala kingdom. And now we see the Gajanayak Nilame, Mr. Palita Chavardhana. And today the Gajanayak Nilame rides upon the majestic tusker Kote Raja.
The Gajanayak Nilame arrives as the official in charge of the king's troop of elephants, and it is a position given to him directly by the king himself.
And this magnificent tusker belongs to Kote Raja Mahavihara, and he was gifted to Sri Lanka in the year 2009 from Burma by former Minister Rohita Bogolagama.
According to the tradition, the Gajanayak Nilame obtains the Hendua or the elephant god from the Devada Nilame, who is the lay custodian of the sacred tooth relic.
as the city and the ambience are all set for the second Randoli procession. Now we see the Kotalapada dancers or the water carrier dancers.
The water carrier dance depicts purity. The dance is simple and it is an example of simplicity of Buddhism.
And the dance symbolically washes the streets, cleaning the streets for the arrival of the sacred tooth rally.
Now we see pictures of the third elephant of the second Randoli Perahera. It is in fact a tradition that the third elephant carries a Buddhist flag signifying that this is a celebration and devotion to the eternal Buddha Dhamma.
And this tusker is Pulatisi Raja, who is the latest addition and the youngest of the Sri Dalada Maligawa elephant stables gifted from the government of Myanmar in 2017.
We are seeing the aerial view of the Kandy city glowing for this celebration today.
The castanet players or the Talampata players. Talampata or the castanet is a small pair of cymbals made out of brass which is used in the Kandian dancing to assist the dancer to keep the rhythm. The command for the dancers is given using the Talampata.
This team of castanet players is trained and led by Mr. Nimesh Sumararatna of the Sri Chandrananda Buddhist School.
The musical sound, which is derived by clapping the two brass legs, is considered an offering to Lord Buddha. Chanida.
Indeed, it is. And also, it is believed to give the rhythm needed for the dancers. The Tit Mantra, or the timing patterns of Kandian dance tradition, is provided by the Talampata or the castanet. This instrument, which is made from brass, gives us a tone that is at times flat and at times ringing. And it is one of the instruments of the Panchaturya Nada.
The castanet players create that mix of tonal qualities and timing counts, and it is said that they remind the people of the even and timely life of the Buddha. Yet another majestic elephant, and this elephant is Madhu, belonging to Mutyangana Rajamaha Vihara, and Madhu is participating in the Dalada Perahera since childhood.
And on the Mount of Madhu, we see a brass umbrella which signifies the protection given to the Dalada casket. We see the Esala moon, which will be blooming into a full moon on the 10th when we host the final Randoli Procession.
And in this moonlit night, we see now a group of Nayari dancers lining up in the procession. The Nayandi dance form was a traditional dance by experienced artists, dressed in Nayandi dancing ornaments without the head covering or the headgear of the dancing ornaments. And it was formerly a dance held in the Devadas.
Indeed, the dancers should master the Nayandi dance before they become the West dancer with a fully adorned West tattoo.
And this group of Nayandi dancers today is led by Saman Nilwit. In this dance form, Gyatabere was played and verses used for upcountry or Udarata dancing was sung. So today also we can see and witness, hear the same. And this duo of elephants, Salia and Kandulavira. Salia belongs to Mahayangana Raja Mahavihara and he is also participating in the Dalada Perahera since childhood. And Kandulavira belongs to Kaduwela Sankapiti Vihara and he is a former mascot of the Sri Lanka army as Kandula IV. He was gifted in 2013 by former Minister Vimal Veeravansa.
And on their mounts we see the Burmese flag. This symbolizes the friendship between Sri Lanka and Burma from the times of ancient kings to protect the sacred Dalada tooth relic.
The Raban dances.
When we are talking about the Raban, there are two types of Rabanas. One is the handheld Rabana and the other is the bench Rabana. So in this performance, we see the handheld Rabana being rotated on a stick. And this team of very fine art is trained and led by Aryapala Vijayaman.
So these Raban or tambourine dancers spin the tambourines with so much skill, creating colorful and beautiful rainbow patterns to honor Lord Buddha, all the while chanting praises.
To release these tambourines up into the air and catch it. It requires a very specific skill, and these performers have mastered that art for this procession.
Yes, I think they have learnt the art to manipulate the instrument well. And at the same time, Shamoda, we can say the spinning Rabana can be taken as a symbol for impermanence too. It reminds us that we may lose our life in an instant, in the same way that the Rabana breaks free from the rod or the stake on which it is spinning.
Indeed, Sachini, with the circumstances that we have been facing for a while now, I think this is quite the right analogy and the time for us to remind of the uncertainty of life.
The tambourine is commonly spun with the use of the dancer's hands, a long thin pole, or with the use of one's teeth to hold short sticks at the ends of which the tambourines revolve.
And we can see two very young performers being very focused and trying to rotate as much tambourines as they could.
I think we should not forget the fact that these performers are getting all these cheers and everything from the crowds lining up in the streets almost after 2 years. So it should be a great feeling for them to have an audience to see, to witness their performance.
Indeed, Sachini, it's been a while since they had that cheer and the kudos coming from the people lining the streets.
And now we see another duo of elephants carrying, symbolizing shelter for the upcoming relic casket. And these two she-tuskers are Suddhi from Habarana and Devmi.
Following those two she-elephants, now we are seeing a performance of Tam dancers led by Sujit Ananda.
The sound of the Thammattama is uniquely recognized with the Dalada rituals. Thammattama is a twin drum which has two separate drums of different sizes. One produces louder notes while the other produces deeper notes.
The clans of Hewavissa, Yakawala, Arawala, Udunuwara and Ridigama creates these drumming phenomenon at the Perahera, and they are traditionally assigned to this task.
Thammattama is used in the daily, weekly and annual rituals of the Dalada Maligawa.
The specially designed sticks that are used to play the drums move in a blur as they ring out the rhythms of the procession. They are called as the Valinada or the Devada beats.
The majestic elephant's presence is usually signaled by the distinct strains of the Gajaga Vandana. So, following the Thammattam dancers, Thammattam players, we see another trio of she-tuskers.
And on the mount of these she-tuskers, we can see snake-head canopies and brass umbrellas, again signifying that the Dalada tooth relic is eternally protected as it parades the city today.
The elephants are the main agency of the procession. Focusing on its function as a rain-making ceremony, it is believed that the greater the number of elephants at the Perahera, the stronger the peril with the procession of storm clouds.
When we move from the Kumbhal procession to the Randoli procession, we can see that the robes of the elephants are also more colorful to the Kumbhal Perahera, isn't it, Sachini?
Exactly. It reflects the grandeur or the magnificence of this great procession, because it is full of so many additional performances when compared to the Kumbal Perahera, like you said.
Indeed, in the Randoli Procession also, it becomes better day by day. So we invite all of you to the Kandy city to witness this pageantry, which is just a once in a year chance.
And even if you are not able to witness it in person by visiting this sacred city, you can always join us via cyberspace.
Indeed, you can tune in to Dialogue TV channel number 140, Pure TV channel number 20, Preset channel number 2, and the official social media platforms of Shri Dalada Maligawa.
This is also a very vibrant dance form that we can see in the Esala Procession. As usual, this group of mixed folk dancers is led by PCB Vijay Surya this year as well.
Indeed, this is a very unique dance which includes the wooden sticks, cymbals, tambourines, and also the chamara.
As I think, Shamoda, performances like this remind us of the importance of this grand procession, not only as a religious procession, but as a cultural procession as well. Isn't it so?
Indeed, if we look at the tunes which are played in this dance also, we can see that they are a bit different to the religious tunes we heard in the previous parts of the procession.
Yet another duo of she-taskers, Rani and Kuveni. Rani comes from Ratnapura and Kuveni comes from Milangoda.
On the mount of Rani and Queni, we see the Burmese flag.
Rani belongs to Mr. Chanaka Jayasekara of Pallibadda and a senior participant of the Kandy Esala Perahera, known for her distinct behavior and looks. Talking about Kuveni, she belongs to Mr. Mahinda Millangoda, who hails from the Millangoda family in Molagoda, Kegol, who were the owners of Millangoda Raja, who had the longest tusks in Asia.
Following them, now we are seeing a team of Udaki dancers.
I think Chamoda Udakya is also a very symbolic instrument in the Esala procession.
Indeed, Sachini. As it is very symbolic, it is also very simple, and it's very unique to see how they have created a dance out of it.
The Udaki is a hand drum and it holds a special place in the Dalada celebrations.
Sachini mentioned that this Udakya plays a crucial role in the Dewala, in the Dalada Maligawa. So the reason for it is that this is used as a tool that provides a steady beat or note to the Kavikara Madua or the chamber of versifiers.
The spectators can see the traditional clan heritage of the Udaki players as they join the procession of Dalada through the streets of the city.
And this team of Udaki players was trained and led by M.D. Tennakon.
And now we see the two elephants, Punchi Banda and Hettimulla Raja, joining the procession. Punchi Banda belongs to Mr. Kitsiri Mevan Belagidara and Hettimulla Raja belongs to Mrs. Sita Senanayaka Mallava of Hettimulla in Kegol. Both these elephants have very gentle habits of behavior.
I think that gentleness is depicted in the careful strides they take today, isn't it?
Agreed.
We see a troupe of Pantheru dancers trained by Sarath Vijayasiri of the Upcountry Dancing Academy.
The panteru or tambourines without the skin bring the purity of the Dalada procession into the minds of the people as they step across the promenade.
The sound of the panteru is too synonymous with the Dalada Perahera, since this instrument is crucial to the Kavikara Maduwa or the chamber of versifiers.
We can say that it is only in the hill capital that you are able to witness the panteru dance in its most authentic and purest form.
Indeed, it is said that the original costume of the panteru dancer is also seen only at the Dalada procession.
And now we see Banda, who belongs to Honorable Devada Nilame Pradeep Nilangadala, and the single-tusked tusker Sindhu or Ekadanta from Malvatu Mahavihara joining the procession. Talking about Banda, he stands among the 10 tallest domestic elephants in the country.
And on the mount of Banda and Sindhu, we see brass umbrellas, again signifying and signaling the impending approach of the sacred tooth relic.
One of the most awaited performances, the first troupe of press dancers in the second Randoli procession today.
Most unique and the most recognized of the Kandian dance heritage is the fully adorned Vesnatwa or the Kandian dancer. The Kandian dancer's skill and dance form has been brought into the national national and international consciousness by the Dalada Perahera alone. Dancers obtained a royal boon after having donned their vest pattua and danced for the king of Panduvasnuwara to dispel the unseen inimical forces that threatened the king's life.
We are about to witness the highlight of the entire procession, the most awaited moment in the entire procession.
Now we are seeing the Karya Karavana Korala, who is the official who is second in command of the Devada Nilamai. And it is a heritage position given by the royal decree.
The ceremonial tusker, lavishly adorned in golden costumes, walking majestically, carrying the sacred casket, accompanied by the tusker group. And this tusker is Singharaja, accompanied by the two tuskers, Burumaraja and Miyan Raja.
we are seeing the chamber of versifiers following the sacred Dalada tooth relic, singing the praises of the noble qualities of Lord Buddha. It is said that the songs or the poems which are sung by this chamber of versifiers are not written anywhere, and it is handed down from generation to generation through the word of mouth.
Following the chamber of versifiers, we see the flower lantern group.
It is commonplace in the Sri Lankan offerings to Lord Buddha that we offer flowers and lanterns. So this signifies the offerings made to the Lord Buddha.
The second troupe of West dancers, led by Sanjeeva Verapitiya and Peter Surasi.
It is interesting to see how this troupe has been dancing in this exact position for many consecutive Dalada Peraheras. The duty of this troupe of West dancers is to escort the Devada Nilame, who represents the Bhupati or the king from the ancient days.
The Devada Nilame is the lay custodian of the Tooth Valley, appointed by royal decree. And now we see the Devada Nilame, Honorable Pradeep Nilangadala, taking the streets in the hill capital today to parade in the second Randoli Procession, ushered by these West dancers.
Indeed, it is the Devada Nilame who ensures that the rituals and traditions associated with the Dalada Maligawa are strictly adhered to. And additionally, he is responsible for protecting those who are a part of the great Dalada heritage.
And Chamoda, we see the Vidanes of the 10 villages under the Sinkadagala king back in the day, accompanying the Devada Nilame as they collectively pay their respect and homage to the temple of the Tooth Valley as well as the sacred Tooth Valley. The final responsibility for the whole of this mighty procession rests upon the Honorable Devada Nilame. So it is with that pride the Honorable Devada Nilame of Shri Dalada Maligawa, Pradeep Nilangadala, takes the streets today.
Indeed, this is one uplifting sight that reminds us of our ancient Kandian glory, with the Devada Nilame walking in state, adulated by a massive troupe of Kandian dancers in their full regalia and watched over by the armed guards on either sides of him.
Exactly, Chamoda. And also it is said that one of the best troops of West dancers is selected as a form of showing gratitude to the Devada Nilame. The presence of the Nilame, the Vidanes and the guards are to symbolize the free society of the nation that is under the watchful protection of the king.
As that marks the end of the Sri Dalada Perahera, we are seeing the commencement of the Shri Mahanatha Dewala Perahera.
The first of the 4 Dewala Peraheras is that of the Natha Devale. It is accepted that God Natha is the coming Buddha. And now we see the godly ornaments of God Natha being taken out of the Devale premises to be mounted on the top of the tusker.
Up first on the Sri Mahanatha Dewala procession, we see a troop of Buddhist flag bearers, and this again reminds us that this is a celebration and devotion to the Lord Buddha. And this troop is representing the Civil Defence Force of Pallekele.
Even if the procession of the Temple of the Tooth Relic ends, The sight of the Buddhist flags once again reminds us of the fact that the tradition of the entire procession is being continued, and it also reminds us of the fact that this is a religious procession.
This hexacolored flag represents the aura which is called the Prabhashvara, which is believed to be emanating from the body of Lord Buddha.
It can be said that these flag bearers reflect the unlimited compassion of the Buddha as they walk in the streets.
Following the Buddhist flag bearers, now we see the heavy troop of the Shri Mahanatha Dewala procession led by S.Y.G. Vijayasena.
That these heavy sea players or heavy sea beaters announce the impending approach of the Natha Dewala procession.
Indeed, Sachini, and it is a fact that the beads which are used in the Natha Dewala procession is different to the Dalada procession and the processions of the other Devalayas.
The procession of the Natha Dewala is dedicated to God Natha, who is believed to be aspiring to attain Buddhahood. And it is believed God Natha is yellow in complexion, and the sign of the swan is associated with him.
Therefore, we can say that the Natha Dewala procession is symbolic of the yellow color and the swan symbol.
Bearing the swan flag, we now see the first elephant in the Randoli procession, namely Vijitaraja, belonging to the Mulagala Aramisenasana in Polonnadu. Vijitaraja was gifted in the 1980s by former Prime Minister R. Premdasa.
The flag on the mount of Vijitaraja is also known as the flag of Senkadagala.
The performance of the castanet players in the Dewala procession.
This team is trained by Nimal Jayasinghe from the Dinanatharu Aesthetic Arts Academy of Mathan.
And now we see the Gajanayaka Nilame of the Dewala carrying an anchors riding a magnificent elephant, namely Kandula, who belongs to Mr. Roshan from Mahanatha.
Following Kandula, we see a beautiful performance of Savarang dancers. And this team is trained by Mr. Dilshan Shalika from the Kandy Aesthetic Arts Academy.
I think this is the first time we see an entire group of Savarang dancers in the Perahera today.
Indeed, Sashini. And it is believed that this Savaram is a form of offering to the godly ornaments of God Natha. In ancient times, the king, his queen, and a very selected group of officials were honored by being fanned. Of all worthy honor, the Dalada casket sits above. So we can see these Savaram dancers performing this performance honoring the Dalada casket and the godly ornaments of the gods.
Talking about Godnatha, because this segment of the entire procession is dedicated to him. It was in front of Godnatha that the kings of the days of yore held their coronation, wore swords, and named the king by drawing the lots. So, in honor of the god, we can see the performers as well as the tuskers, the elephants, all clad in gleaming yellow, symbolizing the color of Godnatha.
Indeed, Godnatha is venerated by Buddhists very widely, and we see the Buddhist flag being repeated in the second Randoli Procession, reminding us of its affiliation to the Buddha Dharma.
And this is the Bibila elephant who belongs to Mr. Dalada of Dewala. To the Dalada procession, or the procession segment of the Temple of the Tooth Relic. In this segment too, we have the thumb at thumb players, and this is the elephant Bandara, who belongs to Mr. Kamal Kitsiri of Kottara. And it is to be noted that Bandara is the son of the Shitaska Kumari, who will also be joining the procession later.
Following Bandara, we see another troupe of Pantheru dancers, trained by Asanka Karunaratna of the Lakshmi Arts Academy from Gelioya.
We can hear the unique chants of these Pantheru dancers.
Indeed, it is said that these chants are very similar to the chants which are sung by the Chamber of Versifiers.
And this is the Shitaska Rani, who belongs to Mr. Nalaka Jayasinghe of Godalada. Rani is also clad in yellow, once again symbolizing the color attributed to Godnatha.
The whole Dalada procession consists of 5 Kumbal Peraharas and 5 Randoli Peraharas, and we are today at the second Randoli Perahera. We see a team of tambourine dancers or Raban dancers trained by Anjana Gamage of the Sankaranga Arts Academy of Kandy.
We first saw a group of tambourine dancers in the Dalada procession, and compared to those performers, I think the attire of these dancers is different. Isn't that such a matter?
Indeed, and also the form of dance is a bit different. So the dancers who we saw in the Dalada procession, they used a stick and they used to rotate the Rabana on the stick. But these dancers are dancing by holding the Rabana by the hands alone.
And this beautiful she-elephant is namely Panchali, who belongs to Mr. Kamal Kitsere of Kottava.
Panchali is very patient and calm today. She's taking very careful strides in the second Randoli Perahera.
As we see the bird's eye view of this beautiful city, we are now witnessing the second Randoli procession taking the streets of the hill capital. We have already witnessed the procession of Shri Maligawa, the temple of the Tooth Valley, and now we are witnessing the first Dewala procession, which is the procession of the Nada Devada. And now we are witnessing the first group of West dancers in the Nada Devale Perahera segment.
This team comes from a very experienced team of dancers, and that is the troupe trained by Vishuddhi Srinath Verapitiya of the Vishuddhi Arts Academy.
Talking about the origin and birth of the West dance, it dates back to the time of King Pandukada. And the attire of the West dancer consists of 64 different pieces of accessories, which you can see in the attire of these dancers as well. and the West dance has become an icon of our beautiful country.
Indeed, Sachini, it is the Kandy West dancer is very iconic and unique to the Kandian tradition and also to Sri Lanka. When the reputation of Sri Lanka goes, Sri Lanka and also the tradition and art of Sri Lanka goes to the international audience. We see the chief trustee of the Sri Mahanatha Dewala marching in front of the most awaited moment of the Natha Dewala procession.
The ceremonial tusker who carries the godly ornaments of God Natha is the elephant Rohana, who belongs to Mr. Varuna Kannangara, and the two elephants who ride on either side of Rohana are the She-Tusker Kumari, who belongs to Mr. Kamal Kitsiri of Kottava, and the She-Tusker Parami, who belongs to Mr. Samantha Vijayamanna of Madagoda. We are almost about to witness the last bit of the Natha Esala Perahera segment, and we are awaiting more segments of the entire Esala procession.
And you are now viewing the aerial pictures brought to you by the Media Bureau of Sri Dalada Maligawa.
As the main Tusker group passes, we know up next we have another important section or another important segment in a particular Perahera segment. And paving the way for that particular segment, we now see the second trip of West dancers in the Natha Esala procession. And you can imagine, you can assume what is next. In the Dalada procession, it was the Devada Nilame who took the streets right after the main Tusker group. And in the Dewala processions, it is the Basnayak Nilame who usually takes the streets after the main Tusker group. But today we have a different situation and we are awaiting that.
The duty of this troupe of West dancers is to escort the Basnayaka Nilame of the Natha Dewala, or rather today the representation of the Basnayaka Nilame.
Exactly, Shimoda. Like you said, the difference today in the Perahera, in the second Randoli procession, and till the two grand Randoli processions, I guess, the representatives of the Basnayak Nilame of the Natha Dewala will be taking the streets. So we have the Nilames of the Pitisara Devalas taking the Basnayak Nilame's place. The beautifully adorned West dancers are now paving the way for the Basnayaka Nilames of the Pittisara Devalas in the Natha Dewala procession. And now we see the Basnayaka Nilame of Vegiriya Srinatha Devale, Mr. Anura Iriyagama, followed by the other Basnayaka Nilames of the Pittisara Devalas.
This setup, where umbrellas are held for the nilames and guards are lining on either sides of the streets, tells us the glory of the traditions we have had in the ancient times. We see the brass standards of sun and moon, signifying that this tradition will continue till eternity, till sun and moon exists.
And that leads to the beginning of Shri Mahavishnu Dewala procession. The second Dewala Perahera, or the second Dewala procession of the Dalada procession, is the Vishnu Dewala procession.
We see how the godly ornaments of God Vishnu are carried out from the Vishnu Dewala to be placed on the tusker who is tasked with the royal burden of carrying these godly ornaments through the streets of Kandy city today.
The procession, which is dedicated to God Vishnu, represents God Vishnu in the procession itself, who is taught to be the god overseeing the well-being of the island of Lanka.
Despite the modern technology, we can see that copper torches still provide the light needed for the Perahera to parade in the streets of the Kandy city.
It is noticeable that those who take part in the Vishnu Dewala Perahera segment are mostly clad in blue, since it is believed the color associated with God Vishnu. And even these flag bearers are wearing this color to symbolize that they are taking part in the Perahera, in the procession dedicated to God Vishnu.
Why the color of blue is used in this Vishnu Dewala procession is because that God Vishnu is believed to be blue in complexion himself.
And the vehicle of God Vishnu is Gurula, which is a mythical bird. So in most of these flags, we can see the symbol of Gurula throughout. As a tradition, a giant tusker usually leads the elephant parade. And in the Vishnu Dewala Perahera segment, we have the elephant Taraka. And on the mount of Taraka, we see an official bearing the flag, symbolizing the Vishnu Dewala procession.
Now we see the official heavy troop of the Vishnu Devada approaching into our sight.
If we carefully listen to these heavy beaters, I think we can hear the distinct strains of Tajikavanna.
Indeed, the beats which are played in each heresy troops are different to each other because these beats represent the beats which are used in the Devada of each Devalas.
And this is the elephant Suranimala bearing the Gajanayak Nilame of the Vishnu Devale. Suranimala, in fact, is a very important, a significant tusk elephant in the Vishnu Devale procession, who has been fortunate enough to carry the godly ornaments of God Vishnu as well.
Following Suranimala, a troupe of Pantheru dancers is coming to our sight. We saw the Pantheru dance in most parts of the procession today, but this dance is made extra special by this performance at the second Randoli Procession today.
And we have the first duo of elephants in the Vishnu Devala Perahera segment. These elephants are called the elephant Surani and the elephant Muthu from Muthiyankara. And both these elephants are clad in beautiful blue, gleaming blue in fact. Once again reminding us of the fact that we are joining the Vishnu Devala Perahera segment.
A troupe of Savaran dancers are coming into sight now, and these Savaran dancers represent the cooling breezes which are sent to the godly ornaments of God Vishnu. It is believed that in the days of yore, the tail hair of the deer called semara is used to make these chamara fans.
Another duo of elephants. In fact, we have one tusker and one elephant. The tusker is Aberaja and the elephant is the elephant Vastu, and they carry canopies symbolizing protection provided to the godly ornaments.
Following that majestic duo, we now see a troupe of Udaki dancers.
Now here are the unique chants of the Udaki players.
The Udakya is a hourglass-shaped, very simple drum and is used in the Kavikara Maduwa.
And we have the Damunapal elephant and the she-tusker Mudungot now joining the Vishnu Devala procession, clad in blue once again, reminding us of the complexion or the color attributed to God Vishnu, with officials on their miles.
A a troupe of wooden stick dancers are coming into sight. These wooden stick dancers represents the traditional fighting martial arts of Sri Lanka, which is also known as Angampora.
And these three elephants are the elephant Pillumale, the elephant Gagana, and the elephant Gamunu Kandula. In fact, this is the first trio of elephants joining the Vishnu Dewala procession.
Following that majestic triad, now we are seeing a troupe of West dancers. And the duty of these West dancers is to pave the way or escort the godly ornaments of God Vishnu at the second Randoli Perahera, parading the streets of the Kandy city today.
As we see the Dewala processions, we can say that all these Dewala processions too are adorned by the Canadian dance forms.
The smiles painted on the faces of these dancers tells it all. It tells how proud they are to be a part of this holy procession.
And now we are witnessing the main tusk group in the Vishnu Dewala procession. The ceremonial tusker who carries the godly ornaments of God Vishnu today is Rama, or the Ekadanta. And the tusker Ekadanta is accompanied by the two she-tuskers Alapatha and the she-tusker Sita from Maligawa.
We see the chief trustee of the Vishnu Dewala marching in front of the godly ornaments.
The royal tusker or the ceremonial tusker of the Vishnu Devale carries the godly ornaments, and throughout the past few years I think it was Rama who was assigned with this great task of carrying the godly ornaments of God Vishnu.
Indeed, Sachini, Rama is a very frequent member of the Esala Perahera.
And now we see the second troop of West dancers coming up next in the Vishnu Devada procession.
This West dancers gives us a hint of what is coming up next, isn't it?
Exactly. One of the most awaited segments, or one of the most awaited moments, in fact, of the entire Vishnu Devada procession. As we saw several groups of Kandy dancers, they come at intervals in dazzling, pulsating troops. Whirling and spinning, they arrive with their amazing silver headdresses.
Talking about the headdress, it is believed that this headdress signifies the rays of the sun.
And one of the most important thing to say about the attire, the costume of these dancers is chamoda. Each item of the costume, which is protected by trials and taboos, is acquired gradually as dancers master the discipline.
It's indeed an interesting fact to know about this iconic Kandian dancer.
And now we see the representatives of the Basnayak Nilame of Shri Mahavishnu Devale taking the streets of Kandy today in his stead.
This setup shows the glamour of the Vishnu Devale, and as the Vishnu Devale procession concludes, we see the commencement of the Shri Kataragama Dewala procession.
And this is the moment in which the godly ornaments of God Kataragama is being taken out from the Devale premises to be mounted on the top of the ceremonial tusker.
Up first, in the Kataragama Dewala, we see a troop of Buddhist flag bearers. And this team is led by Dilan Chaturanga Ratnayaka. A significant factor is amidst these Buddhist flags, we can see the flag of Ravana, flag of King Ravana, in fact, being carried in the Kataragama Dewala procession.
Talking about God Kataragama, it is believed that God Kataragama ascends on the back of a peacock, and the color worn by most of the participants in this Perahera segment is red, as you can see, since it is the color associated with God Kataragama. And the Kataragama Devale in Kandy had been built in the 14th century, and it became more popular in the 16th century. It is dedicated to God Skanda Kumara, or in other words, as we all know, to God Kataragama. And also there's a belief that God Kataragama has 6 faces and 12 hands. Now we see the symbol of God Kataragama on these flags.
In fact, Sachin, there's a very interesting fact about the architecture of Kandy when we're talking about the Kataragama Dewala. This Kataragama Dewala is situated out of the Sri Dalada Maligawa square, and that is because God Kataragama is believed to be a very powerful god who is very much in favor of war. Coming into sight is the official heavy troop of the Sri Mahanatha Devada, led by T.V. James Gurunanse. These heavy beads are very much synonymous to the Kataragama Dewala because these are the beads which are used in the daily, weekly, monthly and yearly offerings in form of the Devada to the god Kataragama.
And this is the first she-tusker taking the Gajanayak Nilame of Kataragama Devale on her mount. And this she-tusker is the she-tusker Manike, who is first to join the Kataragama Devale procession today in the second Randoli procession.
Following Manike belonging to Mr. Anurakan Pittiya, we see a troop of Udaki players. If one listens carefully, we can see that these dancers are not just dancing, they are also singing while they are dancing.
And this is the second elephant to join the Kataragama Devale procession. The elephant Chula, who belongs to Bengamue Shri Dammadina Thero. we now have the group of castanet players. These castanet players are trained by Ajanta Kandegedara, and if you observe carefully, you can see that their attire and their vibrant moves are all unique to the Kataragama Dewala procession.
In fact, Sachini, something very special in the Kataragama Dewala procession is that we can see an influence of the South Indian tradition. And the beats are a bit upbeat and a bit healing, isn't it?
Exactly. I think we should wait for more. I think it's just the beginning of the segment. So, like you said, the influence or the effect of the South Asian tradition can be seen in very vibrant segments of the Perahera. So we have to wait a little bit more and see how it goes. And this is another elephant joining the Kataragama Dewala procession, the elephant Raju, who belongs to Mr. Chamila Bandaranayaka of Gannoru. And on Raju's mount, we see a canopy, an umbrella-shaped canopy, which symbolizes the shelter provided to the godly ornaments.
This troupe of Likari dancers is trained by Upali Dharmaratna from the Upali Dharmaratna Arts Academy.
And now we are seeing that specific and unique segment or the moves, the events, the items in this particular Perahera segment, which we were talking about previously, Chamoda. I think you were waiting for that.
Indeed, Sachini. This is, I think, a most awaited moment for any spectators watching the Dalada Perahera, because this beat creates a natural rhythm in the onlookers.
Yes, I think starting from the small kids of very young ages to adults, so it kind of all people from all age groups really admire this particular segment. That is why most of the spectators are, overjoyed to witness this segment, which is particularly present in the Kataragama Dewala procession.
Indeed. coming into sight is Sudumanike, the tree tusker, who belongs to Mr. Buddhika Mirihal.
And we have the troupe of Kavadi dancers. This is also one particular item in the Katharagama Dewala procession, which is pretty much unique to the Katharagama Dewala itself.
And today this team is led by Indika Prasad Kularatna.
Homage to God Katharagama, who is considered a warrior god. So that's why their moves and their performances are very much unique, and if you observe carefully, they don't have a particular way of performing. Their way of performing is quite freer than the dancing performances which you have seen and witnessed before in this Perahera. But it is also done as a tribute to pay homage to their god, God Katharagama or Skanda Kumara. And this is the elephant Ratna, who belongs to Bengamue Shri Dhammadinna Thero.
We see the troupe of West dancers leading the way or escorting the godly ornaments of God Katharagama. These West dancers use backflips, acrobatics and leaps to create a spellbinding aura which keeps the eyes of the spectators glued to the procession.
And this troupe of West dancers today is led by Upananda Thalgava. the main tusker group of the Kataragama Dewala procession. Today, the godly ornaments of God Kataragama are being carried by the elephant Esala, and the two elephants who accompany Esala are Sankaraja and Aruna. Clad in bright red, once again, the last and the main tusker group of the Kataragama Dewala procession remind us of the symbol as well as the color of God Kataragama.
We see the Tavil Nadaswaram drums being beaten, reminding us of the South Indian influence to this Kataragama Dewala procession. Following the triad of the main elephants of any Dewala Perahera, a troupe of West dancers is very much anticipated.
And if you have been watching the Perahera since its beginning, you now know what it leads to, what this troupe of West dancers lead to. This troupe of West dancers has also been trained by Upananda Buddha. And now we see the representative of the Basnak Nilame of Kataragama Dewale taking the streets, representing the Basnak Nilame's presence in the Kataragama Dewale procession.
This setup with an umbrella over the head of the Basnaik Nilamis and the guards lining on either side to provide protection reminds us of the glory of the ancient kings of Sri Lanka.
That ends the procession of Shri Mahakataragama Dewale, and now we are about to witness the beginning of the Shri Mahapattini Dewale procession.
We see how the rituals are being performed inside the Sri Mahapattini Dewala by the chief trustee and the Alatyamma, who is a very unique player of traditions in the Pattini Dewala.
Goddess Pattini is a deity who commands great respect among most of the citizenry of the country. And the importance of the Pattini Esala Perahera in the entire grand procession is because the only female representation at the Dalada procession is that of the Pattini Esala Perahera. Therefore, in this segment of the procession alone, we will be able to see female dancers performing.
Indeed, Sachini. Just as we can see female dancers in this procession alone, in terms of deities or gods also, Goddess Pattini is the only female representation in the Dalada procession.
Exactly. Why so? Folklore stated that the goddess Pattini was a great model who preserved her chastity, and due to this great and noble quality, she could obtain the highest veneration of human beings.
Indeed, in Sri Lanka, the parents seek blessings of Goddess Pattini for their children. They request Goddess Pattini to protect their children from evil and from uninimical forces.
So now we'll see the flag bearers, the Buddhist flag bearers to be specific, walking in the Pattini Esala procession, leading to the heresy beaters.
The Sri Mahapattini Devada, namely M.G. Palakrishnaka, M.G. Sirisena and M.G. Premadasa. this troop of heavy beaters who are adding the Panchaturyanada to the skies of the Kandy city today reminds the people of the frequent offerings which are done to the godly ornaments of Goddess Pattini on a very frequent basis.
And this is the first elephant in the Pattini Dewala procession. In fact, we see the official, the Gajanayaka Nilami, riding on the elephant with the anchors. And it is to be noted that the elephant is wearing the color yellow, symbolizing the color attributed to Goddess Pattini.
Indeed, Sachini, there is a discussion around what is the color affiliated with Goddess Pattini. Some say it is white and some believe that it is yellow, because the color of Goddess Pattini is believed to be the Shweta Varna. So we can see a mix of white and yellow in this procession.
And now we see the Pantheru dance. And this is in fact very important to us because we have been watching, we have been witnessing a lot of Pantheru dance in homes throughout the procession. But this is significant to us. Why? Because this is the first Pantheru dance which we see in the procession performed by female dancers.
Indeed, these dancers take the streets of the Kandian city in very proud strides, paying no heed to their gentle souls. And also, there's a belief that this Pantheru represents the anklet of Goddess Pattini. Isn't it, Sachini?
Yes. And these dancers have been trained by Vindhyakula City with a Buddhist flag mounted on its top. We see another gleaming elephant joining the procession right after the female Pantheru dancers.
A troupe of wooden stick dancers are coming into our sight. These wooden stick dancers, knowingly or unknowingly, represent the martial art of Angampura, which was a traditional martial art in Sri Lanka.
Yes, I think even though it looks a bit similar to the wooden stick dance, this is the dance of the wood tappers or the Patru dance. And these Patru dancers, they emanate a sound of clapping for the weavers of the procession.
This team is led by Mr. Nishanta Sanjeeva of the Navaranga Arts Academy, Galnava.
And another elephant takes the streets, and as they mark the intervals between the different performances, we now see another beautiful dancing act performed by a combined group of dancers.
Indeed, it is a mixed folk dance performed by a team from the Takshila Arts Academy and trained by Takshila Sirivardhana.
This dance form reflects the kind of society which prevailed in ancient Sri Lanka, as well as the kind of society which we would like to see in the modern day Sri Lanka as well. The society which was based on the agrarian lifestyle, which is self-sufficient in fact.
Indeed, Sachini, that is the wish of every Sri Lankan, that we as Sri Lankans become self-sufficient as in the days of yore. And also a very significant factor in this dance is that we can see a representation of males and females both. Again, it represents how the agricultural activities are being shared between the males and females in order to provide for their families.
They perform in so much of unity and harmony, and that is also a symbol for coexistence, and in order to ensure the self-sufficient nature of the society, the coexistence should be there.
Clad in the significant color of Goddess Pattini, we see another elephant taking careful strides with an umbrella-shaped brass standard, again signifying that the protection given to the godly ornaments of Goddess Pattini.
The female castanet players.
This team again is trained by Takshila Siriwardhana from the Takshila Arts Academy, Yati Halagala.
They help to maintain the rhythm and the consistency, the movements of the entire procession. And following the castanet players, the dancers, we see yet another elephant in the Pattini Dewala procession. And it is really beautiful to see how all these performers, as well as the elephants, are clad in beautiful yellow.
Following that majestic elephant, we see the first female Nayandi dancing troupe. They are led by Lakshmi Kumari from the Kethumathi Arts Academy, Dalada. Carrying a snake head canopy on the mount, we see another elephant marching down the streets of the Kandy city at the Pattini Dewala Perahera at the second Randoli Perahera.
And we now see a group of female Savaran dancers fanning the upcoming godly ornaments of goddess Pattini.
In the times of the kings, it was mostly female who were tasked with the task of fanning the royalty.
And we see the female flute players assisting these dancers with their beautiful rhythmic tunes. Yet another elephant with an umbrella-shaped canopy on his mount. And the first troop of West dancers in the Pattini Dewala procession.
We can see this West troop is performing a very significant dance form, which is also called as Narumatra, which is being danced by holding the either sides of the loincloth of their attire. As we mentioned earlier as well, belief in goddess Pattini with faith brought blessings on small children, to be specific, as well as women. We now see the chief trustee of the Pattini Devale walking ahead of the main tusker group. And the most awaited moment in the Pattini Devale procession. The ceremonious tusker with the godly ornaments of goddess Pattini, who is supposed to be a goddess of noblest qualities.
It is believed that a small portrait of goddess Pattini is carried in the Ranhilige on the top of the royal tusker, the ceremonial tusker, and the tusker is also accompanied by the Dali elephants, the elephants on his either side, providing it protection.
With that, we are nearing the end of the second Randoli Perahera. These West dancers are paving way for the Basnayaka Nilame, or the Nilame who is representing the Basnayaka Nilame, to walk down the streets of Kandy. In the modern day, this West dance is used in many of the occasions and ceremonies in Sri Lanka. But in this Dalada procession alone, that we see all the forms of dances affiliated with the West dance in its full ado and regalia.
Today in the second Randoli procession, we have a Basnayak Nilame of a Pitisara Devale representing the Basnayak Nilame of Shri Mahapattini Devale in Kandy. And he is also provided protection by the guards and the Vidanis surrounding him.
We are seeing the Randoli being carried. Up first is the Randoli of the Srinatha Dewala, which will be followed by the Randoli of Shri Vishnu Dewala. Next on line is the Randoli of Shri Mahakataragama Dewala, followed by the Randoli of Shri Mahapattini Dewala.
What you just saw was the conclusion of the second Randoli procession.
Let there be timely rains that will bring life-giving waters to our fields to ensure a bountiful harvest.
May our country prosper.
Dalada Samidu Pihitai.